Why I don't define as an anti-feminist. Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and I probably should have made this video sooner, but for whatever reason, I have never clarified why exactly I don't take on the label of anti-feminist, likely because I had not properly processed these feelings intellectually, but also because I think I basically just forgot. You see, the accusation that I'm an anti-feminist has been thrown at me more times than I can count, often in my personal social sphere, and I'll assume it's mentioned very frequently behind my back, so it's really a shame that I don't actually identify this way. Though, to be truthful, the label doesn't actually offend me very much. Regardless, the actual label of anti-feminist is not something I can personally take on, in spite of the fact that I spend so much of my time blathering on and on about the evils of feminist ideology, feminist corruption in media, academia, and government, as well as the particular effect that feminist dogma has had in harming the gay male demographic. The main reason for this is that I am unwilling, in general, to take on prescriptive labels, and while anti-feminist is somewhat descriptive, it does include the word feminist, which is prescriptive. You see, if you were to describe me, you'd probably find that I follow Enlightenment values and am best described as a liberal, but how often do I actually call myself a liberal? I mean, I don't bring it up all that often, right? Also, I am a very skeptical person, but how often do I call myself a skeptic TM? Honestly, you could call me a rationalist or a liberalist or whatever the hell else type of word that a person would use to describe somebody like Sargon of Akkad or Dave Rubin, and I wouldn't exactly object, but these terms can get a bit prescriptive, and they run the risk of having somebody or other proclaim themselves as a leader of that individual tribe, and so I opt out of being in such tribes, so that I don't end up being ordered around by the leader that I don't necessarily always support, or to be held accountable for their bad actions. That's always been a good course of action for me as an individual, and it is that attitude which inspired me to go directly against the establishment of the gay male community and say, screw you guys, the feminist nonsense needs to get out of the gay male community, it's actively harming us. All of that should be fairly obvious to subscribers of my channel at this point. But that all said, there's a deeper reason that I won't call myself an anti-feminist, which goes beyond, I don't want to label myself because I don't like labels. And it has to do with semantics and linguistics. Truthfully, believe it or not, I care a lot about communication and the fine tuning of words and sentences. You see, as I hinted at earlier, when you allow yourself to be aligned with an ideology, even as defining yourself as somebody in opposition, like you do when you describe yourself as an anti-feminist, when you do that, you're allowing the ideology to define the terms that you're using to describe things. You're allowing them to frame the discussion. Here's the thing. When you call yourself an anti-feminist, which is obviously your choice, you are still telling somebody that you are willing to take on a label that will be perceived to be in diametrical opposition to the position of feminism. And thus, when somebody hears that you're an anti-feminist, they'll make a lot of assumptions, no matter what you have to say to them after you declare yourself to be an anti-feminist. Sure, maybe when you say that you're an anti-feminist, what you're really talking about is that you are against people believing in the idea of feminism to the point where you don't mind the world knowing that about you. But a feminist will probably think something like, oh no, this person supports the patriarchy. That's not my position. I don't support the patriarchy. I don't support the feminist version of the patriarchy because I don't think that it exists, as I see the sexes of our species as cooperative and dependent upon each other. A feminist might also think, when they hear the term anti-feminist, this person believes that we live in an oppressive matriarchy where all women collude either consciously or subconsciously to privilege all females at the expense of all males. Which, again, is not my position. I do not believe that, even though I do believe that we currently live in a society in the West that actively oppresses males on both a social and systemic level. You see, I don't believe in the feminist worldview so much that I am unwilling to even cater to their terminology in any way if I can avoid it. When I describe myself, I will say that I am a men's rights advocate because I definitely am. And I'll also say that I'm a feminist critic because I definitely do criticize feminists and feminism, TM. But that's about as far as I will take it. The second I start calling myself an anti-feminist, I will be allowing the other person to begin shaping the dialogue, and I want to avoid that. I do that not for my own benefit, because I obviously am immune to the feminist programming they might try to throw at me, and I'm maybe not doing it so much for the benefit of anybody observing. Rather, what I care about is the notion that when you tell a feminist that you're an anti-feminist, you're allowing that person to believe that they have an understanding of you and your positions, which honestly, most feminists simply don't. They want to think that you're at the other end of the conference hall, when in fact, you never even attended the same convention to discuss the issues on their terms. Because I don't agree to any of their terms. Basically, at all. I don't know. Maybe I'm being silly and annoying and this stuff doesn't matter as much as I think that it does, but at the same time, I have talked numerous people out of being feminists, and I believe very strongly that it's both possible and worth doing. So I will continue to come up with the best ways that I can to communicate with these people, and I can offer people advice on how they should do it too. That's all.